Hey everyone, this is Swapnil Mathur for thinkdigit.com, and today we have with us the Nikon Coolpix A. What's different? There are a few things that are actually quite unique about this camera, um, given that it's from Nikon. So we'll take them up one by one. So for starters, it's a large sensor compact from the company, which it's got an actual DX sensor inside. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's essentially the same sensor as you would find in the D3200 or the D5200 in terms of dimensions. It's a pretty large sensor. It has a pixel count of 16 megapixels and is of the BSI type. It's actually a pretty neat camera, given that 16 megapixels is actually pretty good, and we've been walking around with this camera for quite a few days, shooting a lot, and we really like what we see. The second unique thing about this camera is that it's got a fixed lens. It's an 18mm f2.8 lens, and in terms of 35mm equivalent, that comes out to about 28 mm. So it's decently wide, not too telephoto, it's just about right. And it's a fixed lens, like we said, which means you cannot zoom. But what you do get is a fast aperture of 2.8, and when you pair that up with a large sensor, you get a camera which is capable of shooting amazing images even in low light. Now, there are a few things that are different about this camera, even in terms of ergonomics. One, Nikon's done away with the on-off button. Instead, you have this lever that you just flick back and forth to turn the camera on and off. Then there is a little dial, it spins horizontally, which essentially allows you to control the various settings. So if you're shooting in aperture priority, this is how you change your aperture. If you want to do exposure compensation, you push a button for that and then you spin the dial, and that's how you change, your various settings. There is a hot shoe involved, which is great because it's an enthusiast compact, and you can attach any existing Nikon flash with this camera. Yes, even the SB910. And in case you don't have a hot shoe flash, a pop-up unit is built into the camera, so you don't have to worry about, getting stranded in complete darkness. The Nikon Coolpix A also comes with a focusing switch, which allows you to go between manual focus, full autofocus, and a macro range limiter. The macro minimum focusing distance on this isn't too great, it's about 4 inches, but even so, given the 16 megapixel resolution of the sensor, you're able to actually crop out and get pretty close to your subject. So there's that. On the back, you actually can see there are a lot of buttons here. It's very similar to what we've seen on Nikon's entry-level DSLRs. So you'll see a dedicated button for exposure compensation, ISO, magnification, demagnification, display back, menu, information, etc., etc. What is a little confusing is normally when this sort of a dial is placed on a point and shoot camera, it serves several functions at the same time. However, on the Coolpix A, that isn't the case. There are no dedicated functions that can be mapped to any of these four directions, which is somewhat of a letdown if you ask me. But for those of you who would like access to various features, otherwise you have two custom function buttons, and you can map various features to that. So that's about the body, the buttons, the ergonomics, etc., etc. When it comes down to pure imaging performance, we actually shot a concert with this. Really like the results. The focus was a little bit haywire, but that's a given. It is a point and shoot at the end of the day. But even so, from point and shoot standards, it was extremely impressive. Shots of up to ISO 3200 look absolutely clean. No issues making large prints out of that. The colors are good. The images tend to be slightly warmer than you would see from other cameras, but that's okay. You can always adjust the white balance accordingly. The camera shoots RAW, so there's also a lot of scope for post-processing. And the one downside of this powerful little thing is that it only shoots 4 frames per second. So if you want to shoot high-speed footage, for example, if you want to shoot kids playing or if you want to shoot sports, this camera might not be able to keep up to your needs. Other than that, the Coolpix A is actually a pretty impressive camera. It's a great walk-around camera. It's very inconspicuous. If you walk around the street with this, people are most likely to not take notice. So this is definitely something, if you're a street photographer or even just somebody who wants something compact but with extremely good image quality, Nikon Coolpix A might appeal to you.